bans. Again, 7 map pool, 6 out, 1 is left. Who has the last decision in this one? Oh, it's Oregon again! Des, what are you doing to all of us? Cafe Dostoevsky banned out by Xavier, and we will have yet another Oregon today.
I got rid of this altogether. I cast it out into the shadows and said, Oregon, we see you a little bit too much. I think I'm done with this today. And it's coming back to haunt me. It just keeps on rising up and we're never going to be rid of it, it seems. But giving a bit of a lean towards the side of Xavier here. They've played it 3 times. They won it twice. So definitely not a bad outcome for them. On the other side for Electrify, they've played it once and they lost it once. Otherwise, it's been banned away pretty much all the time. The only victory they found on that map was against Norarengo, who, if I recall correctly, were a little bit slow, a little bit cumbersome, as we've accused them of a few times here. Good on the gun skill, but failed to get the result they needed. So I'm looking at Electrify and thinking, well, if you can't even beat Norarengo, how are you going to come and beat Xavier here?
Okay, you know what?
It's a new team.
That's a good point, actually.
New roster, new Electrify.
Enough, though?
New roster, new me,
so.
You know what? Let's just see what people think about this game. Social votes are in. You can all go and vote on this at R6 Esports APAC on Twitter. 66% for Xavier, 34% for Electrify. We'll see if that actually turns into reality, but I understand where everybody's coming from with these votes. Understandably, how Xavier really improved. If anything, for me, Xavier's improvement over the summer is what Electrify aspires to go through. This is the big aspiration. How much do you respect your opponent? Is it to the point that it scares you to play correctly against them? That's what I have in mind. But for all of us, what did we predict? Our caster predictions are ready and set. Let's go for it.
I do wonder.
Geodev.
We're all there, but what a surprise.
Wow. Oh, nice!
Look at that, nice! Let's go, can we screenshot this? I'm going to screenshot this. Hold up, production, don't remove this yet. Stop.
He is actually screenshotting this. I actually
There we go, I got it.
He's going to put it on Reddit.
That's,
yeah, you're looking at my screen. That's always a bit creepy.
Yes, real nice there. But you know what? Going off of Xavier, Gio, why specifically this squad in this case?
Look, Xavier went through a significant improvement between phase 1 and phase 2, and then they made it into the major as well. And yeah, maybe they didn't do as well in the major as we perhaps expected them to, based on the fact that they completely decimated the competition in phase 2 of stage 1. But the point is they are a really scary. Hi, Jessica. They are a really scary team. That was terrifying. They're a really scary team. And Electrify, while they've had these flashes of brilliance, they haven't had enough to prove to us that they can be consistently good enough to take down Xavier. I don't care that they beat them in phase 1. That was a different team. Like Xavier then is not Xavier now.
Yeah. Xavier then, Xavier now?
Xavier had such a huge improvement. I want to see that consistency. I reckon they can do it. But Electrify, look, I'm going a bit with, was it you, Hap? You said the new players might bring some new life. I'm keen to see that.
Might be.
All right, you know what? James, Gio, please. It's the last game of the day, and I know you're hyped as all hell for this one. Electrify versus Xavier. Enjoy yet another Oregon.
Thanks, Milos.
Very much. Me and Gio, we were just having a chat earlier about how much we love Oregon, weren't we?
We love it. Can't get enough of Oregon. Actually, I don't mind it that much, but
I'm having a bit of. No, I'm just having a bit of fun. I would love to see more theme park, but.
Hey, I've already had a theme park today.
Well,
so,
I didn't.
you know,
I don't think I've gotten to cast a single game of theme park during the entire EWL or APAC North League.
Wow.
Anyway, let's jump into Oregon. Electrify versus Xavier. It is a rematch from last stage, and it was a game where Electrify found one of their only 2 wins throughout the entire of the APAC North Division thus far. So see whether they can repeat that feat.
Just want to jump in and say, just because we've only just had the info, Souffle, the new player in inverted commas on Electrify, is actually Triple Lift, who was already on Electrify. So it's a surprise you already knew who it was. But the good thing about that is we know that Triple Lift is actually such a major player for this team. He was someone who we were a bit disappointed to hear that he may have left the team because he's done so well. So
yeah,
there you go.
He lifts a lot. Everyone knows that.
At least 3.
I guess he's decided to. He's not a what do you call someone who's really passionate about the gym? There's a word for it. A gym enthusiast. I'm just gonna go gym enthusiast.
Okay.
Changed from being a gym enthusiast to being a foodie, and I'm okay with that because
Hey, look,
I like souffle.
I love souffle.
Well, let's talk about operator bans because
I would love to.
That's relevant to the game, Gia.
Yeah.
So here in Oregon, we're seeing quite a bit of the Maverick banned and or utilized. Of course, a lot of this comes down to the wall denial, but this is a really impactful ban right here. That Wamai ban from Xavier. The Wamai not only brings a deployable shield, but also has utility to protect the deployable shield. And when Wamai is combined with Jaeger and deployable shields, we often see teams running anywhere between 2 and 4 deployable shields on this site. When you combine that together, you create these really strong anchor positions for the defenders to waste utility and time and be able to prevent those attackers from getting map control. So as a result of that ban, attackers won't have to worry quite so much about the utility sink. They'll just have to clear ADSs. But we do leave Mirror on the board, and we saw how impactful that was for Cloud9, the previous map. We might see that continue as it's picked right out of the gate by Ed.
Yeah, straight away, that's going to be used. It's going to be used upstairs, first and foremost. You see her quite a decent amount on the basement site, if you have the opportunity to use her. It's always nice to see her get used upstairs because it can make a lot of those different angles of ingress a lot harder to take, you know, especially if you have it looking somewhere like the big window where you typically see a lot of pressure be applied by the attackers. Suddenly, that gets much harder. And sometimes you'll see it on the trophy wall as well, which makes it harder to push in through Master. And a lot of these routes that you'd really want to be utilizing as an attacker.
I feel outright trolled right now because not only is Souffle triple lift, but the name is still triple lift. Like, I feel completely trolled right now. And I have to fix my I have to fix my spreadsheet. That's how bad this is, Gia. I have to actually go through and fix my spreadsheet.
Well, you shouldn't have had a broken spreadsheet in the first place, should you?
Well, it's not my fault. I didn't know that he wasn't actually Souffle.
Clearly, you're not a true spreadsheet fan.
Oh, actually, oh wait, what? It still says triple lift in here. I'm so confused. My spreadsheet is... I outplayed myself with my spreadsheet.
You know, at least we knew that he was Souffle before this happened. But actually, speaking of him, it looks like he's getting ready to maybe get this shot onto Onigiri? Maybe? Nah, he's decided to back off somewhat. That would have been actually pretty fun if he had done that. Onigiri was a really big player when these two teams came up against each other last time. I believe he was the highest rated of the team, of both the teams, in that game. So... would have been an interesting opening pick, but alas, he will continue to live on.
This is good control, though. For Xavier, so early into the round, full trophy control. I'm not sure whether the closet's been opened, but I believe it has. It's a great position. There you go. We already have one ace Selma having opened the closet. So eventually Xavier will have to turn their attention to the downstairs roamers, in particular Pikachu, who's got that C4 and gathering information with the cardiac sensor, ready to deny that plant. But with the amount of time Xavier has left themselves, they're in a really good position to do that.
Yeah, things are looking healthy for them. It looks like they're going to begin opening up the trophy wall. That's going to make it harder for the attic to be continued to have control held by the defenders. Once again, another part of the map that's going to get cleared out. DCH, the first one to fall in that engagement, but Ray does get traded out. So there is a backwards and forwards there, but it does now mean that Xavier can move on through.
The Candelas actually enable Napier a bit more aggression. Ed's being live droned right now. Surely Napier finds 2. No, he gets refragged before he can find that second kill, but Onigiri jumps in through the window and finds him. Can the C4 find its mark? No, Xavier, nimble on their feet, managed to dodge. And now it's a full retake scenario for Electrify with 2 players downstairs, but the Pulse may well get the information that they need. Not a chance, though, pushing up the yellow stairs, the white stairs, I should say. It's triple lift now, and a 1v2, make it a 1v1. And Scatman has to hold his own. He's got the mirror on his side, but Triple doesn't have the info. And the AK wins out the duel. Xavier take the first round.
Xavier really set everything up there, or rather Electrify really set everything up there to really deny a lot of that movement through from Xavier, but they just seemed to sidestep it. You know, they had the mirror windows, they had everything like that, they had the pulse downstairs. So even then, you have the mirror windows looking onto, they had it looking into big window and looking into attic. Attic control got taken because they were able to take trophy control really quickly. You eventually had Onigiri come in through big window. Yeah, you had the pulse down below, but he actually jumped straight over that area before the C4 even hit. So it seems like Electrify had the right idea, but the wrong execution.
I really like the live drone from the Ying, for the Ying. Scatman, who was playing Ace, I believe, was live droning ahead of whoever was playing Ying, Napew, I think, pushing in from attic and then into kids. And despite a couple trades coming out, Xavier was like, we're always going to make sure that we get the last laugh. So that was the moment where, as you said, Onigiri pushed in through the main window, the double window, to ensure that that refrag came out. By the end of it, the numbers advantage was squarely in Xavier's favor, 3 versus 2. And despite that downstairs presence, it's funny, I alluded to the fact that downstairs presence from Electrify would probably enable them to deny the plant, but that wasn't so. Xavier had pure numbers, and it meant that they didn't have to go for a passive plant. They actually took full control of the entire objective, and then it wasn't really viable for Electrify to just passively try and deny that plant from below. They had to take matters into their own hands, and Xavier's had numbers advantage in that.
I have to say, I'm really intrigued to see whether or not Electrify are going to return to the upstairs site, or if they're going to go elsewhere. Maybe Meeting, which has been popular today. Maybe they'll go down to the basement. You know, different teams have different philosophies when it comes to this sort of thing. Are we going to repeat it and try and rectify on our mistakes? Are we going to go elsewhere, have a fresh idea, and then maybe revisit that site later on? I think they felt kind of confident in what it was they were trying to do. It just didn't work out because Xavier they made it look so easy to make that attack onto them. But I don't know, do you think that they're gonna feel, you know, convicted in the fact that they can bring that back, or do you think they'll go elsewhere?
I would probably just change things up straight away. Personally, they didn't have any walls and all. I don't think that Melusi was running impact, so there wasn't really any way to address the really fast take that Xavier was going for, and they could try to make some kind of adaptation to combat that, you know, bring a mute, Bandit Kaid, or bring more impacts. But I think Xavier prepared for all those eventualities, especially with Thatcher still on the table. It'd be really easy to clear any static wall denial like the mute jammers, Kaids, etc. You could try to actively Bandit trick, but that then leaves you vulnerable, really vulnerable to a Zofia going downstairs and destroying the floor beneath you and getting the kill. You could even try to impact trick, but with Ace in play, you get 2 impacts per operator that can bring impacts as a secondary gadget, and there are 3 Selmas on Ace. So you probably have to commit 2 operators to impact tricking, which we saw, I can't remember which game it was in the last 2 days, but we saw one team try that. It wasn't super successful. So it's just an entire can of worms. So basically what I'm saying is, yeah, Electrify could retry that, but they've got to completely revamp their entire defensive strategy. And I don't recommend that. Like, maybe feel it out in a couple of rounds time, but I would just straight away be like, let's go downstairs, especially because Xavier only bringing the 1 hard breach. I'm not sure whether Ying actually brought secondary hard breach gadget, but I totally think that there's probably a better chance for Electrify to go downstairs.
Well, then maybe that's what we'll end up seeing. But it's an interesting one because, again, we've seen Xavier play in the last recent history, I suppose, because they were at the major, whereas Electrify, they've had time off, they've had time in the off season to go back and develop what their ideas are going to be. But it's also, you know, obviously you will have expected them to be scrimming and things like that, but haven't necessarily just been in the throes of competition in the same way. So it could just be that they need a little bit of a warm up, maybe just try and get things out there, see how it works in practice. But what it looks like, James, is they're actually going to be returning to the upstairs site, but evidently trying something else out.
And it's the classic thing. They're bringing a Ying. What can we do to adapt? Bring Warden. Like, it's not a hard counter. It's it's like a hard counter for that one operator, which is why I don't think Warden is necessarily a viable counter to the entire strategy of the Ying that was previously plaguing the player who was trying to play kids. But in this case, Xavier have actually changed their strategy. Napew decides to bring the Hibana, so perhaps preempting a downstairs attack, bringing that extra hard breach to get the hatches. So that makes sense from Xavier's perspective, and I think they're coming prepared. I don't think that that's going to be a huge issue for them, the fact that they're not going downstairs. And Electrify, well, I think they might have a better chance this time around. On top of the fact that the Hibana actually can help get rid of these mirror windows. There's no wall denial on the Electrify side, which means the X-Kairos could just be used to hit straight onto one of those black mirrors and dispatch with that quite easily.
Yeah, that could be pretty interesting. And obviously you mentioned how the Warden is used as a direct counter to Ying, but Ying's not actually even being brought by the attackers. And I suppose you could hope that he can provide some information should Scatman decide to use the smokes that he's bringing with him on the Ace. If they try to use that to conceal some kind of push, maybe that will be able to help facilitate Electrify holding their defense. But whether or not that's actually going to be what happens is something entirely else. It didn't take that long for the top floor to be infiltrated by the attackers last time. And this is interesting, though.
Yeah, Pikachu roaming on the mirror. So last round, Pikachu played the Pulse and was roaming downstairs looking for information, trying to play the late game. And to some degree, he can try to do the same thing here on Mira. He's got that C4 for late round denial. That's an aggressive peek that gets punished. Good patience from DCH and a bit of antsy from Ray. Already that starts things in Xavier's favor.
Yeah, I mean, DCH, he's really been a player who's shown up really throughout the season so far. He's been top 5 rating, top 2 KD, and the #1 best survival in all of APAC North, so expecting him to show up really isn't too much of a brain stretch. And now you're seeing Onigiri send in his Ash charges through the big window, and it doesn't really look like there's anyone around to do much about it, especially not Sino. He gets deleted before he even knows about the fact. And Attic looks like it's been mostly cleared now, and Onigiri's just going to be adding on to the kill count. Things are looking very free here for Xavier.
And Onigiri is going to send it, pushes inside, Ed eventually gets the kill, refrag comes through. Now just Pikachu downstairs. Diffusers will get planted, a C4 still in pocket, but clearly the mirror did not have the info. A blind C4 comes out. It's pre-placed at the moment, can detonate that later. But a 1 versus 4, let's be honest, this ain't happening. And Xavier have all the control they need to hold on. Even if this is 4 1v1s, surely there's no way that the Mirror can win this. And Xavier will just push 1 by 1, get the job done, finally locked out, and that's the round.
Yeah, difficult position to be in there for Pikachu. Obviously, you mentioned before how having that player downstairs can be incredibly useful in a post-plant situation. We've seen that from many, many teams. It's not a new idea, but Electrify so far don't seem to be able to get that much out of it. And I think part of that is because they're not left with anyone upstairs either. So that's your last hope. You're flying blind, and then you find yourself in a 1v4, plus having to find the diffuser, which was in a different place the last time. It's really a tall task for someone like Pikachu.
And funnily enough, we are going to see the Warden 6 picked onto as well as the Ying 6 picked onto. So good read there from Ed on Electrify's side.
Defenders, protect your bombs from being defused.
But we are seeing finally the basement chosen as the objective. I'm quite glad to see something different from Electrify. But we'll see how things can pan out, because looking at the operator lineup, you've got 2 shields, no mirror. I feel like the mirror would have been more valuable than the Echo here with the way that Xavier is playing. But I guess it'll come to how much Electrify can defend these shields and fortify their positions.
I suppose maybe some of it comes down to the fact that they're feeling like in the late round, they don't have that much information to go by. Maybe if they can keep the yokais up, they can use that in those scenarios. Maybe they can deny a plant. I'm not really sure. That's kind of what I assume is the thinking behind that. But you're right, a mirror could have been exceptionally useful. She's certainly not unpopular on this site if she is available to use. So we'll just have to see how that works out for Electrify there.
Well, looking at the operator lineup from the attacking side, so much util to clear out the fairly scant util that Xavier are bringing. Actually, both of the shields are placed in blue quite aggressively, and Xavier, they could opt to just ignore this, but they're going to address it head on. I think likely because they have the Thatcher and the Wamaya's band, so they're not worried about that at all. They're only concerned with the ADSs. Red Sun has a really, really good drone inside blue right up against that shield as well, so he can spot out that ADS. It could get wasted using an EMP or using some Candelas or smokes. But yeah, oh, actually spotting out the yokai as well. This might get taken out for free. Napew tries, but I believe the yokai will get safely away.
Yeah, well, he's still going to be able to ping it, but obviously it'll be a harder time. It's just going to be floating away. They know that it's out there, though. That's the important thing, is that they're aware of that. And there we go. They're going to send in the EMP, it looks like, to try and get rid of it.
And there you go. Eventually, I believe that... No, the yokai's still alive. I don't know how that happened, but Ray elsewhere gets aggressively and finds a pick in rear tower stairs. I totally think Xavier are tunnel visioning right now, but Napew's going to try and get a bit more aggressive, and Pikachu peeks off the back of that. So does Ed. And what Napew may not realize is actually the Warden, who was getting flashed there by the Candela, basically ineffective, and now DCH trying to push down the rear stairs. This is starting to look very difficult for Xavier, and the Warden may be impactful here.
Ooh. Yeah, Pikachu getting that 2k as well. That's incredibly useful, and you're right, having the intel from the Warden definitely helps. Down goes Ray, though, as DCH does get his revenge, but there's only 2 players now remaining on Xavier. They have about a minute remaining, so still plenty of time, but they are going up against double their man count. It didn't take them long to open up the meeting hatch, but they still had to push in through blue, and that's where they found a lot of their struggles. I'm going to start things off by sending in a smoke, and hopefully that will obscure things for them, but it also means Warden is forced to use his utility. If Xavier can burn some of this time, then maybe they can use that against Electrify when they make their push, which they're still preparing to do. Starting to look down into Pillar, but not yet going to be finding anyone is DCH. Very low on health, and he just slightly misses his shot, maybe giving away his position as he starts to look down the hallway. There's a kill onto Triple Lift as Scatman starts things off, and he's just going to keep going. DCH getting a kill for himself as well, but it doesn't last. Electrify turn things around and managed to defend themselves, the site, and the round. And James, maybe you were right. Maybe they should have just come down to the basement, because it clearly worked out for them.
Yeah, a bit off kilter there for Electrify. They put Xavier on the back foot. I think Xavier's worst enemy that round was kind of themselves. There were only 2 deployable shields taken by Electrify and no mirror, as I alluded to in the prep phase. And with my band, those shields are not super safe. But despite both of those shields, basically all the investment from Electrify was into Blue Bunker, right? And Xavier decided, okay, we really want to address this head on. We really want to try and deal with this. And I think that was to their detriment. They got so distracted by that yokai whizzing past, by the players peeking off of the shields, by the fact that it was a Warden, trying to clear the ADSs, that they didn't actually destroy either of those shields, and they never really had proper control of blue. And when Electrify is putting all of their utility investment into that one spot, surely Xavier, the read is, okay guys, let's either just quickly dispatch with this stuff, or ignore it completely, and go for a freezer push, go for a lobby push, at least put some pressure elsewhere. But I think that tunnel vision really punished Xavier there and allowed Electrify to shine.
The thing that really interests me about this choice of bomb site now is that, is the reason they're coming here because they feel confident after that last one that they can come back to their original bomb site and actually take it? Or is it because they feel too unconfident going to either of the first floor sites, or ground floor if you're British like me? Out go the black eyes, so that's going to give them extra information, and maybe that's what it is that Electrify really need in order to make this defense work for themselves.
Yeah, I don't think the mirror was super impactful on Dorms. It's actually funny to me. Electrify's bringing mirror on the Dorms defenses, but not on the basement defenses. I would typically do the opposite, not saying that it's not viable to do it the way they're doing it, but you may be right. This adaptation, bringing that Valk instead, might allow Electrify to play a bit more aggressively, which I think is the play here, because Xavier, as we noted in the early Dorms attacks, was just so good at taking control of Trophy and Master and opening up that closet really early in the rounds, and that's exactly what they're doing right now. 45 seconds down, DCH dispatching with that Banshee in Trophy. We do have some wall denial as well, which we didn't see previously. It's Ed on the mute. But, of course, with Thatcher on the table, I don't think this is going to stall Xavier very much at all.
And now Ed has to be aware of the fact that they are going to begin to open things up should they be able to remove the mute jammer, which looks like it shouldn't be too difficult as the Thatcher was brought. It's still standing though, it's still there. Pikachu's underneath. That's going to make it actually harder for any attacker to go down, and Scatman's no longer going to be there. That's your Thatcher that's... No, not your Thatcher, sorry. That's your Ace that's gone, and now that shot onto Pikachu. That means that the Valkyrie isn't going to be able to get what he wanted in that scenario. Half the time is down. Xavier, with their man down, need to pick up the diffuser and get a move in.
This may well come down to whether Electrify can get a bit eager on some 1v1s. If they run around too much in the bomb site, they might get caught out, but there you go. Sinnoh on the long angle does find one. Napew and Onigiri have a decent crossfire, but if Electrify just hold fast, I think they can make this work. Now they've got that 4 versus 3 numbers advantage, and it's really Xavier who have to make the next move.
And they're sending DCH off on a really long goose chase, but it's actually going to be Napew who gets the first shot in the next engagement, bringing down Ed, but he goes down himself as Sinnoh gets his revenge there. He's really low HP though, but there's not much time left remaining, and now DCH is gone, leaving just Onigiri on his own. He can't hold up though. Triple F finishing things off at the end, and Electrify proved that despite struggling at the start of this game on this site, they made the changes and it worked.
A lot of nice things that we saw from Electrify. I was talking early rounds. What can they do to modify their Dorm's defense so that it works better here? And the tough thing about defending here on Oregon with this set of bans, in particular that Wamai, is it just makes it so much more difficult to protect your shields on the basement. So basement isn't necessarily as viable. You've got to really lean into this Dorm's defense. And the roam was one thing that Electrify tried a bit more, but it wasn't super impactful, even though Ed had free reign downstairs. What I did like was just the passiveness when they had the advantage. They played really aggressively. As soon as Xavier started to open up those walls, they found a pick or two. They had a 4 versus 4, 4v3, and then they just started sitting down and chilling out. In particular, we saw at the end that deployable shield in the Kids Dorms facing towards Attic is a really nice one because it means Electrify can basically just play inside Kids itself rather than trying to actually hold Attic actively, which is something Xavier would get in control of using their hard breach on both sides of the Attic. So really nice from Electrify, playing passive when needed. And yeah, keep it up. Let's see if they can win another bomb site.
I think knowing when to take your engagements is a really huge thing. I mean, it's not even just a Rainbow Six exclusive thing, but it's incredibly important in this game because you have to ensure you're getting value out of the decisions that you're making, including the gunfights that you're taking. And going up against a team that you know can really show up in that instance with players like DCH and Onigiri on them, being sure that you are being valuable in instances like that is really great. Well, now Electrify know that they're going to be dealing with a shield, so that's going to be sent all the way back to the team, all that information emanating around their heads, and now they've just got to deal with the incoming Monty.
Yeah, the Montaigne is a big... Do wonder how Xavier intend to use it. That's a nice pick to kick things off. DCH finding Pikachu upstairs. Bit less pressure now from Electrify and Xavier in particular with this Montaigne. It's going to make it so much easier to brute force showers, even potentially plant behind the Monty. You can see Ed actually rearing to do an aggressive peek. Might get punished for it. The shot comes out and that'll alert Xavier to his position. Sinnoh as well. You can see now Electrify, they know they're at a deficit, so they have to play extra aggressive to try and regain that equilibrium.
I mean, that's certainly going to be the hard thing, especially when you have players like this. DCH outside, he's just holding onto that window, wondering if someone's going to jump out. And Ray isn't far away, but DCH has decided to return now to help support the team. And as you say, they've just got to deal with how they're applying the pressure on. Napew now standing here in the doorway of dining. And that pushes Ed away. That really clears out some of that space and forces Electrify to make their decisions, especially as the wall is now being opened up.
So how will Electrify play around this? It's only a matter of time before Xavier is ready to start planting, likely behind that Montaigne. So the main wall into dining has been breached, but Scatman gets peeked. Nice aggressive angle, actually, from the hallway through the open holes. And Onigiri also ran out on from the master balcony. Ray trying to confirm that kill, but it doesn't really matter. And Xavier are dropping right like flies at this point. It's only the Montaigne and DCH left standing. Can pick up his buddy, but Xavier got a lot of work to do. But it is still a 3 versus 3.
Oh, well, it's not anymore as Monty gets taken down pretty swiftly, and that's that huge threat that they were trying to play around that no longer is there. Xavier have to pick up the diffuser, but also make sure that all these defenders they've got to deal with are out of the way, especially as it is a little bit exposed. They know that someone is just slightly further away, and that's a really nice shot there on Tessino. Maybe wasn't quite expecting the aggression of that, but it does put it in a 2 versus 2 situation. Fewer than 15 seconds remaining means that Xavier can't hang around. They have to push forward. And where Ray is right now means that he's in a position to take down DCH, which is exactly what he does. And Onigiri, with so little health, just has to push forward. But the time runs out. And Electrify win the round, despite the fact that you might think, oh no, Monty's here. We're screwed.
Now the turn to table, it were 2 back-to-back.
That's my phrase.
Sorry, mate. You can copyright that
You're
one,
welcome
so
to
I'll
borrow
steal
it.
it off you.
Yeah.
Xavier came out of the gate swinging in this map. 2 straight attacks onto the top floor, both of which were quite one-sided. And Electrify, they're like, okay, let's just change up to a different bomb site. And then suddenly they got back on that horse, and now they've made a run of 3 straight defenses on different bomb sites. That means they can now return to Laundry Supply. And the thing that's weighing on my mind for this round isn't so much about Electrify. It's actually about Xavier and how they decide to approach this bomb site. In particular, what I want to see is a more accurate, or I guess, I don't know what the word is. I'm trying to avoid using the word better, but a better call in the early round from Xavier as to where they should push. In particular, because the way that Electrify only had 2 shields and no mirror windows, I really did feel like there was a lot of weaknesses in their strategy. They hard committed to blue. So if Xavier can ignore blue, perhaps they'll have a better chance.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, especially as it seemed, those who were dealing with the meeting hatch, they got their job done pretty quickly, but because the attackers who were focused on blue didn't deal with everything so efficiently at their time, those who were upstairs still had to kind of wait for the push because the rest of their team weren't ready. That's something that we do need to see Xavier clean up, especially as, this is a team who we lauded as having improved so much. They went to the major, they did exceptionally well, and now they're back in the position that we saw in phase 1 where they're still struggling against this team from a sub-region that many people aren't familiar with. They're not one of the heavy hitter teams that you automatically think you should be scared of, and yet they're kind of being shown the ropes by them right now.
Yeah, to reiterate, Xavier have played Southeast Asian Pro League for several seasons before APAC North Division was a thing. Electrify never have. They never qualified. They never even played in the Challenger League in Southeast Asia. There's a nice early pick. Onigiri finds that Roma. And, well, experience does trump in that situation, but that's not the story of this wider game.
No, absolutely not. Xavier are going to have to keep it up if they hope to retain that story that started to be painted by that nice kill there onto Ray. Once again, the Yokai's floating around. That's going to give the information to Electrify that they need as the players from Xavier move in. And there's another kill onto Triple Lift. Immediately, Electrify significantly weakened, and this could mean an entirely different way that this round turns out compared to the last time Xavier were attacking onto this site.
Yeah, notice Xavier actually haven't even tried to contest blue whatsoever. They first just wanted to get map control, and since Electrify was there waiting for them, Xavier dealt with those 2 roamers. Now they've got a really strong position. They've got map control. They have numbers advantage. That's what's key. Even if this comes down to a bit of a messy fest of refrags back and forth, Xavier should come out on top. And now they're shaping up for this both Laundry and Freezer joint push. Good information from Napier. Red Sun pushing on the back of it, but Sino could turn the tide here if he gets this successful swing. Red Sun not getting too greedy. but takes control really nicely. And Onigiri pushing from the rear stairs. What is that? And suddenly it looks like Electrify are falling to pieces.
Yeah, they were so ready to work together, were Xavier, and they have had a casualty in the process, but Pikachu, look, he's now trapped and he's going to be going down as Scatman gets the plant in. Everything's landing on Ed's shoulders. He does get that first kill, but he can't make it work any further. Xavier adapting and improving, or improvising, and overcoming. It may have been a bit of a mess last time they attacked onto this site, but they changed it up and they made it work.
Really, really good. And from the get-go, we saw a much better read from Xavier. On top of that, I feel like Electrify played into their hand a little bit with those two roamers. They weren't super well established, and Xavier dealt with them really without too much trouble. Good drone work, etc. You know, credit to Xavier. Wow, Red Sun's actually got no kills in the total of 6 rounds we've played. He is usually the one I would point out and say, or maybe not the only player on the team that I would point out first, but Red Sun's been a huge player in the past for Xavier, and he's not even having to perform. Maybe if he was performing, we would see a less even scoreline, one more slanted towards Xavier.
Protect your bombs from being defused by attackers.
That's true, but I also wonder if maybe part of the reason is because he's been a lot more focused on the support he's been providing. Obviously, he's been playing Thatcher a lot more, which doesn't necessarily mean you can't get kills, but because of the more objective-oriented way that Xavier are playing right now, it almost feels like they're trying to support and facilitate people like DCH and Napew going and getting a lot of those kills and worrying less about sharing them all out. Now, obviously, Red Sun could be getting more, but I don't think he's necessarily not doing his job. So obviously, there's always room for improvement, and Xavier aren't having their best game in the world. But I suppose we'll see as we head into their defense now if things change.
I think that round just then is a good momentum breaker for Xavier, stopping Electrify's momentum, but more so giving themselves a bit of confidence back, because Xavier had 2 really strong attacks at the start. It's not just that they won those 2 rounds, they won them really convincingly. And then they really looked lost on their first basement attack, and they really redeemed themselves with that second basement attack to round out the half. 3-3 isn't the best scoreline for Xavier, but I do feel like there is still a lot of lingering pressure, and the fact that Xavier, yes, they had such a good second half to stage 1, and they made it to the major. They even took a map off of Giants during that, but these guys lost to Electrify last time around, so they've got to prove that that was just a bad day, and they actually are significantly better than this team and can take them down.
Yep, it's all well and good to have your improvements, but you've got to prove that they can hold strong. Going to have the opportunity to drone into the attic now, but Red Sun is pushed up really close and he hasn't backed off. That could be a big threat as Electrify not only come in through that direction, but also from downstairs. It's going to be one of the Geminis going down straight away, but Red Sun's actually going to be the first kill. I said he was pushed up close, maybe a little bit too close. This frag grenade doesn't quite reach its target above.
Onigiri taking an aggressive position now, bottom of white stairs. He hears that drone, he does take it out and gets away safely. Not bad there, and Triple F's fully out of drones. He's gonna have to rely on his teammates. A nade will go up, suppress some of that aggression, or also remove the barbed wire. But Onigiri on the back of it gets more aggressive down the stairs. How eager is he gonna get here? With no drones left, I think he actually might be able to get away with something here.
Yeah, and he actually gets a kill there onto Triple Lift, so it definitely worked. He was not holding back at all, and now he's ready to throw in the C4 to get whomever may be out on the balcony, and that's gonna be Ray. So really weakened here is Electrify on their attack, as Xavier really decide not to hold back. Ed holding here on the big window. He knows that there's someone just across from him. In fact, it's Scatman who decided to jump outside for just a brief second. Pikachu looking into Master, and together they're going to have to coordinate this push somehow. About half a minute remaining to do it, and neither of them holding onto the diffuser. They know that Xavier are going to be prepared, holding on to every angle. Pikachu could find that he gets shot from above if these holes in the floor are to work against him, and it okay, looks like he narrowly misses it, but that's where Ed takes his opportunity to jump in. But Xavier getting those last 2 kills means it doesn't entirely matter Xavier getting their first defensive round and looking very strong in the process.
Very much so. Xavier went from a 4v5 to a 4v2 there. Really, really great way to get back on that horse. And I want to put it down at least partly to Onigiri. Really well played on the white stairs. And a lot of that is micro decisions. It's not that like, oh, he's just better. He just won his fight or whatever. Or he was just playing super aggro. Like he was taking an aggressive angle on the stairs. You could see he clearly heard someone get on their drone and he heard the drone. So instead of aiming at head level, he started aiming at drone level. He managed to take out that drone. It happened to be Triple Lift's last drone. And then Onigiri pushed back up the stairs. That meant he was safe when the grenade came out. But as soon as that nade exploded, Onigiri is like, okay, they won't expect me to be aggressive on the stairs again. So he pushes down. That nets him a kill on the triple lift. He comes back upstairs, uses his C4 to take out the player on master balcony, and suddenly that 4v5 is looking like a really winnable situation. So Xavier, a lot of good individual play in terms of micro decision making, and also playing together when they had that advantage.
I mean, look at that. The replay was just so smooth. The entire sequence of events where he pushed down, he came back up, threw out the C4 as the wall was opening. It was like it had been rehearsed and he knew exactly what he was going for. And it's always so much fun to see plays happen like that, because those are the kinds of things you watch in pro play and you're like, yeah, I wanna be able to be that smooth when it comes to these things. It's always great to see, and it's especially great for Xavier, who, you know, probably didn't have the first half that they wanted, and they want to be reeling it back in.
So time to get a move on now for Xavier. Looks like a little bit of a roam teased out by Napew, but I believe he's the only one downstairs. Indeed, the rest of Xavier down on the basement. In fact, everyone, Napier, I can't tell if he's in meeting or in the basement. I think he's gone. Oh, he's in meeting. He's just putting some pests out to delay time. Great thing about that, the pests is it's going to really slow down this push with the drones. And he can also actually play aggressively off of it. Surely he doesn't find something here. He's found a drone, so a little bit more information denied. And he might get back to site undetected and uncontested. That's exactly what he was looking for. Finally, Electrify still trying to clear out, and this is the point where Napew just plays passive on site. He shot a drone. That's some progress, and he should just be happy with it.
Yeah, and it means that players like Pikachu, who's now present in meeting, who was aware of the fact that Napew was around there, has to play a bit more cautiously. Now, you can see he was being droned in by one of his teammates, which makes him feel a bit more comfortable in actually turning around that corner, checking the top of the stairs, things like that. But it still shaved off some of those seconds, which later on in the round could be really key. Now here, this is interesting because you're seeing Triple Lift also be droned down, but in the form of a Gemini. He now knows that DCH is in freezer, and that's a really useful bit of information as Electrify start to push.
No Hibana or secondary hard breach in the lineup means Electrify can't open up these hatches. If they want, they could commit 2 Selmas to the 1 hatch indeed, so that really restricts options here. Ray can't now open up the freezer hatch or the lobby hatch or any of the blue walls from Electrical, so really restricting options for Electrify, and it's going to mean they're going to have to force themselves down these choke points in the latter part of the round, and I think if Xavier just play passive on their established crossfires, they should be in the advantage here.
And something that we've seen Xavier do. Know exactly when it is to take the engagements, when it is to rush in a planned way, or when it is
good info
to be careful. Once again, they still know that freezer's being held, but Onigiri's going to be going down. Actually, Scatman as well. Electrify look like they're very well prepared for this push in onto Xavier. DCH is still waiting at the bottom of the freezer stairs, but he's going to be taken out beautifully there by Triple Lift. And it really looks like Electrify have the entire control. What? And they do. A flawless round. They took their time to gain the information. They acted on it, and they knew exactly what to do. A beautiful round there from Electrify.
That's crazy. I was totally not expecting that. And I guess I've become I've become a bit prolific at jinxing teams when I say this team should be advantaged. Electrify doesn't have a really good way to get into the bomb site. But yeah, like you were alluding to, Electrify just gain information. They use their drones, they use the Geminis from Yana, really impactful, I think, to establish where all these players were. And then Electrify just pushed down. And literally just won 5 1v1 gunfights. And yes, they had information, so it's not like it was a 50-50 gunfight, but Xavier never fought back, never had an opportunity. They just lost all of those gunfights, and there were no refrags capable because the way that Xavier were kind of holding it is like, okay, you watch Freezer, I'll watch main stairs, you watch wrist stairs, I'll watch blue, and it means you're not really stacking players together, you're just having people holding anglers, and they're getting swung on. And peekage advantage is a thing. People who are peeking the angles, especially when they have some info, are typically going to win those exchanges. So credit to Electrify. It makes you wonder, what's Xavier going to do to not just lose 5 1v1s like that again?
Yeah, I mean, especially as Xavier were actually pretty well positioned. It was just the, the intricacy of how Electrify went about gathering that information. Obviously, they sent the Gemini down into Freezer. They knew DCH was there. That applied pressure onto him. And then they did it again later on to be sure, so that when the push came that they were about to do, it was they knew exactly where they were going. It was exactly how they wanted it to be. And so I think that was, it was very well orchestrated by then. Right now, Xavier are learning that you can't send 3 people through a rotation hole all at once because you will get stuck.
I do like these adaptations, though, from Xavier. Even looking at their operator lineup, you've got the mirror. I was talking about how do you win, how do you lose 5 1v1s in a row? Well, you're not going to lose a 1v1 if you're behind a mirror window. That's not likely to happen. On top of that, Xavier are double downing on this passive playstyle by bringing the smoke instead of that Mozzie. So not so much worry about information denial, which I think is okay. Despite us praising Electrify's information gathering, yeah, you still have the mute to some degree, which you could use unless you're using it for wall denial. But I think the smoke is just going to be better at choking out these choke points that Electrify is trying to force themselves down. So but between that and the mirror, I think this is a great adaptation and could definitely reap rewards for Xavier.
Yeah, obviously they've not made changes in terms of how they're going about Heart Breach as well. You mentioned before in the last round that it could be a big risk because you have to commit 2 Selmas to a hatch if you want to get it open. And actually it's interesting here how Xavier are kind of positioned because they know that. And if Electrify decide they'll go for the meeting hatch again, Xavier want to be ready for that. Once again, Ed pushing down quite a bit. He's going to be retreating actually, so he doesn't get too caught up in that engagement, but that is going to keep Onigiri on his toes.
This is where I think potentially Electrify could get punished for not bringing the Hibana. Like I was saying last round, Ray's only going to be able to open up this 1 hatch. He still has 1 Selma left, but I'm not sure where he's going to use it. And does it mean that this freezer hatch being closed really makes it so much more difficult for Electrify to have like a proper crossfire onto this player who can play at the locker? Electrify looking to basically shape up to the exact same strategy. What they might not realize is going to be much more difficult with the mirror windows, facing them down at the bottom of the main stairs. On top of that, Napu still has his gas left over.
Yeah, it's only going to be hard, and there's a C4 onto Triple Lift to kick things off. So Onigiri doing bits for Xavier. It's going to make it harder for this attack to be done. There's Ed going down as well, joining his teammate in the grave, as is Sino. So suddenly, the push that happened last round that went so well doesn't seem like it's really in the sights of Electrify right now. Pikachu is going to be the next one to attempt the freezer, but he's got 2 players of Xavier on him, and that will cause him to go down. Flawless round for Xavier. Complete opposite of what happened last time, but it's a great example of what happens when you kind of have an idea of what it is your opponent's going to do.
Yeah, I love that. We went from flawless round Electrify, where they just win 5 1v1s, to flawless round Xavier, when they win 5 1v1s. And you could put it down partially to info gathering from Xavier. Those mirror winners really helped them out. Also, like you alluded to, the fact that Xavier knew what kind of push Electrify were going for. Electrify didn't have a lot of avenues onto the bomb site with that hatch in going into freezer was still reinforced. No way to breach that open, meant you can't like lob nades down and other things to try and clear that locker's position. And Xavier were not to be dislodged. They just started to pick aggressively when they knew that they were favored, and they had tons of util, the gas and the C4s, to lock out Electrify, and they locked out that round, and only 2 rounds away here from getting this victory and soaring themselves forward in the Swiss system.
And that's the thing as well, we should really mention with the Swiss system is obviously by nature, the way it works is that you are paired against teams that have a similar or the same win-loss ratio to you. So especially earlier on in the competition like this, where a win or a loss affects your ratio to a massive degree, it's really going to set the precedent for which half you're in quite early on. And of course you can move up and down in the Swiss system, but if you get that early advantage, it will really work out very well for you. So interesting way that the APAC North format works, because obviously we are the only region to have that, but it is very important to note because it just adds so much to the outcome of these rounds.
Yeah, we get overtime, which is really great. One thing I love about this system. Let's have a look at what Electrify intend to do. They've got the buck instead of the sledge this time around, which is a good decision. And you're attacking an upstairs objective, means you can use that soft breach onto the ceilings. We've also got lots of explosive utility to clear out these shields. Pardon me. Red Sun's brought a shield on Valkyrie and Scatman's got one too, so there's 2 shields. But now Xavier actually playing quite aggressively. There's no actual shield here in Trophy, but 2 players playing aggressively in there regardless.
Well, whether they can hold, that is something that is yet to be seen. And as you mentioned, Valkyrie did bring that shield. So it does add that extra layer of protection. And I do actually believe it's Red Sun who is... Was he playing in the attic? Was it the Valkyrie who was there? Either way, the attic window or door or wall, I should say, has been opened by the attackers. So they can actually take control of that part of the site right now and begin to move around to the other side of the building where they can start to make work on the games room wall.
It's trying to get control of Attic, but this Mute Jammer is stalling out his info gathering. Not just the drones, but also the Geminis have been stopped thanks to that single Mute Jammer. Now Xavier losing... Well, actually, Napew had a drone downstairs, getting information downstairs. I really like that, but finally, the wall is breached. As the Ace Selma rings out, C4 doesn't find its mark. Napew's finding an engagement downstairs somewhere and ends up losing his life to triple lift. And now this box should be fairly unimpeded at pressuring these anchors from below.
You can actually already see the players upstairs having to dance around those holes that are being made by the skeleton key. He's opening up the hatch as well. And as you say, unimpeded. But look, he's got to be aware of this one player who's right in the corner. I don't think he's seen him, but now he knows he's there because it's Onigiri. Of course it is. Running down the white stairs and securing that kill for himself. And that means that no more of those holes, no more of that vertical challenging will be able to be made by Electrify. And Red Sun, Scatman adding onto the kill count as well. Electrify have to push in. It's a 2 versus 4, and they're going to have to add some aggression on here, but Xeno won't be part of the story. Diffuser is down, leaving just Pikachu on his own. He's going to come in through the attic, but now everyone knows where he is. It doesn't take long for him to be deleted either, and Xavier continue on the reign of terror.
Can I just credit Scatman there for that 360 shotgun blast with the smoke? That just cracked me up as soon as I saw that.
It's like, style points at the very least.
It was absolutely stylish. I love to see it. Xavier from the get-go, they actually lost that initial engagement. They lost Napew downstairs, but on the back of that, Onigiri just did what Onigiri is kind of known for now, I guess, on those white stairs. He played quite aggressively, and despite Triple Lift actually having some kind of info, because you could see the Buck try to pre-fire mute, but hey, Onigiri wins that fight, and then Xavier continues to go on a tear. A lot of players from Electrify were really lit up, and thanks to Napew's, rather Scatman's gas, it was really difficult for Electrify to start moving on forward. Also really want to credit the Mute Jammers from Onigiri, which just made it so much more difficult for Electrify to get information. And clearly when they don't have information, they get a bit lost, they start to stall out, and that's when Xavier really takes control.
I have to say, it made me laugh when you said Onigiri is becoming known with the white stairs, because my first thought was, wow, Canadian's going to be so happy that his white stairs association is slowly getting phased out if someone else takes that. I'm sure he wouldn't hate that, because you know, there are good reasons to be famous for that part of the map, and there are bad reasons to be famous for that part of the map. And so far, Onigiri is setting quite the precedent for being the king of that area. But, you know, now Xavier are going to be coming down to dining to hold for the first time on their defense so far. Actually, they've taken both laundry and kids now. Well, I say taken, they've held it successfully both times now. So a new site for them. They've decided to come back to the Echo, who we've seen a couple of times today so far, but the Legion is something a bit new.
Yeah, and it might let Xavier expand their map control for a little bit longer and slow down this take. Electrify, they have it all to do now, going up against match point for Xavier, but you can clearly see that the Thai have really regained their confidence and they're eager to play more aggressively in these positions. Pikachu, is he going to wait for that second reinforcement to come out and try and purify the wall? He is, but I don't think Redsun's going to try and reinforce it now as he knows he's a bit vulnerable. But now he has this cute little snug corner to sit in. Pikachu can open up the wall, but Red Sun has a crossfire with DCH. Actually, there's no breach in this wall, so DCH doesn't really have a crossfire to support, and he's getting droned out from triple lift. Electrify may well be able to aggress on, but Red Sun nuts, and he peeks it, and he wins it. This is what we know Xavier for. They have so much confidence in their gunfights, and it's paying off here.
Absolutely working. And of course, he also had the C4 in pocket as well, so could have used that too. Didn't need it in the end. But it does mean, as you say, Xavier are going to be able to continue on. Don't forget, this is match point, of course, so all they have to do is take this site and they will have won the match. Looking like DCH going for some of those wall bangs. He takes a decent amount of damage in the process, so it makes it a bit harder for him. Yokai is just gathering some information, and Red Sun's going in for his prey again. He's a predator, and he's not going to stop, nor is DCH, as he brings down Ray. Red Sun does unfortunately fall in the process. That brings some hope to the side of Electrify, but actually, now I say that, they're just left with two players. Two drones as well, and Triple Lift is going to be bringing DCH down too. That's a good start for this last engagement. Just under a minute left, so they don't need to rush, but Onigiri lying prone here in the attic could be found to be somewhat of an issue, and there we go. Just Triple Lift alone now. 38 seconds, and he's got to jump into the building. The diffuser is so far away, so he's got to go in for kills. He gets goo-mined, and he gets shot in the face as Scatman rounds the corner, leaving Xavier with a victory for a map that we thought maybe would slip through their fingers, but no. They knew that they deserved it, and they proved it to us. Electrify still have a way to go, but Xavier know where they belong.
Took him a little bit to warm up, but Xavier ended up finishing the map in style. Onigiri, well-earned MVP there. Not just in the kill department, but a lot of those plays were just super impactful, super well-timed, and a pleasure to witness. In particular, we're going to remember that white stairs aggression for a while, I expect. And yeah, hats off to Xavier. It looked like Electrify were going to really give them a solid fight for quite some time. Ending in a 3-3 first half on Xavier's attack didn't give me a lot of confidence. They came back with a vengeance on their defense.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, some people could have argued that they expected this map to be very swung in one way because of the different results that these two teams got in the last stage. But here we go. We have it all on paper now. We've seen the footage. I want to know what our analysts think. Break everything down for us for the last game of the day.